Okay, for our first retro review of Doctor Who, we're going back to my favorite Doctor, Tom Baker, and the first episode, Robot, after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and as we were waiting for new Doctor Who to be produced, which will be about a year away, I thought it might be a good idea to go back and look at some of our old favorites. And nothing is more favorite for me than the Tom Baker years of Doctor Who. Tom Baker was a completely different kind of actor to play Doctor Who than just about anyone else did. While it has been played by comedians and by dramatic actors and by people who have taken it in various ways of silly and quirky, nobody really ever gave Doctor Who the feel of being an alien than Tom Baker did. His first episode, was written by Terrance Dicks, produced by Barry Letts. Barry Letts was Tom Baker's favorite producer. Later, the producer was John Nathan Turner, who didn't like Tom Baker, didn't much care for Doctor Who, and proceeded over the next few years to almost tear the franchise down. But more on that later. Come in just at the time that Jon Pertwee was regenerating into Tom Baker. Now, Pertwee left because his friend, Roger Delgado, who played the Master, died unexpectedly, and he could see going forward that what would the Doctor have to do without a Moriarty kind of nemesis, didn't see anybody else playing the part, and was also concerned about being typecast as the Doctor and not able to get any other kind of work. So he thought the time was right to go ahead and leave and regenerate. And while the producers looked around for someone who would be a good successor, what they wanted was someone who was charismatic. Now, Pertwee was very much a James Bond kind of Doctor, and with his association with UNIT, was able to be kind of the super sleuth. So what they wanted from Tom Baker was somebody that you would want to follow without having to have a constant enemy, but interesting kind of stories, but someone who was always someone you wanted to watch, somebody that you always wanted to be on screen, and Tom Baker really filled that bill. He had kind of an odd way of acting, from way of just going in a door or sitting down. He never sat down straight. He never walked straight through a door. He never stood straight for the most part. He would lean against something, or he would crouch, or he would make himself more comfortable than most people would in odd situations. And on top of that, he had a tendency to act as everything said to him was somewhat of a surprise. It's a nice day. It is. And that sort of thing was very endearing, at least to me. The outfit was, of course, something that was partially picked out by Tom Baker himself, although it was his idea to go through various tryouts first. And in the early part of the episode where he comes out as a clown, as a Viking, as a member of royalty, all of these, of course, were not the costume they intended for him, but he thought it might be fun and funny and set the character if he were to not really have any idea what proper attire would be. Turns out the scarf, which I bought this some years ago. This one is like 12 feet long. His was in varying lengths depending on when it was that you saw the show. There was a main scarf and later a backup one, and they were different lengths. The reason it became so long was just because they gave their wardrobe person a autumn colors of yarn to make a scarf from, and she got a little carried away with it and used all of the yarn, and it made the scarf, some people think it was like 18 feet long. Now, later, like I said, they made a backup scarf, which was a little bit shorter than that, and after wear and tear, they eventually put the two together, and so we really don't ever know from one time to the other just exactly how long the scarf was. Most of the stuff that you can buy at Comic-Cons and things like like this, which is where I got that, is generally about 12 feet, and it seems to fill the bill. Most of the time that you have seen this scarf, by the way, in other characters, which was featured in Day of the Doctor, for instance, was the original scarf, and in the Power of the Doctor, also that was one of the original scarves, at least. So this has been a long time prop used on the show. Interestingly, he had ideas. Once again, Tom Baker had ideas to kind of use the scarf as a tool sometimes. He didn't treat it as anything special, but sometimes if he needed to measure something, he would use the scarf to do it. In this episode, he checks the depth of the hole by extending his scarf down into it. So he was always looking for things, different kinds of props that he could play with, and also use them in ways that would not be normally expected to be used as, all lending to his more alien type of persona. He claimed in an interview sometime later, Tom Baker did, that actually what he did, he was kind of a strange fellow himself, and just read the lines and acted like he acted. And so it worked for what they were doing. I think that probably he put a lot more creativity into it than he leads on. In this episode, it's interesting how he's able to, as he's regenerating, he of course is disoriented, as the Doctor often is after regenerations. But while the Brigadier orders him to sick bay, it seems that Harry is the Doctor, except that he says, "You are a doctor. I am the Doctor," the definite article, and proceeds to show Harry that he is perfectly okay by jumping rope. And the two of them jump rope together using an old rhyme, which was used at the turn of the 20th century. Anyway, it was a very nicely acted first episode. Terrence Dicks, who wrote the episode, decided to write it wacky after having met Tom Baker, and figured that someone after him could change that if they found it went too far over the edge. But it actually worked very well. It had very good audience reaction, and Tom Baker's career was on its way as Doctor Who. This was originally presented in December, the 27th of December, 1974, and holds up pretty well as far as time goes. There's a little bit of sexism, interestingly, by Sarah Jane, but she's called on it. So this was something that could be pretty much fit in with something that was made today, but for some of the special effects. So that is episode 1 of Robot, Tom Baker and Doctor Who. Good time for you to subscribe if you've not done so already. We are going to review all of the Tom Baker adventures in the first season and see where that takes us. And I hope you will let us know in the comments how you liked it and how you liked the show, or if you wish to watch along and lead your own observations to it. I would love to read them. So until next time, don't go far.